What's up, guys? Rick here with a preview for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. We're going to talk about the golf course, the field, who is best to attack, and anything else that I can think of along the way. We are in course rotation season, so both courses at Torrey Pines, the north and the south, are going to be utilized for the first two rounds, and then they will make a 36-hole cut and go back to the south course for the weekend. Before we jump into all of that, we are getting down to the wire here. The RickRunGood One and Done World Championships on Splash Sports starts next week at Pebble Beach. This is it. I mean, we're getting down to it. It's $500,000 guaranteed. It is about a third of the way full. If it doesn't fill, Splash is still paying out all of it. So you might want to get in. There's going to be a winner for $50,000 no matter how many people get into this thing. I would love to fill it so that we can ask for more next year. But if we don't fill it and there's an overlay, good for us this time around, probably bad for us in the future. There's also the Listener League for the Farmers Insurance Open up right now. And the $500,000 one and done, that has a $150 entry. If you want something bigger, there is also a $1,000 high roller. That is not a guaranteed prize pool. It will adjust when the final number of entries get into that. So do me a favor, go get in this, fill it up. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling. It's going to start next week at Pebble Beach. Now, let's talk about the Farmers Insurance Open. Let's talk about Torrey Pines. Let's talk about the South Course first. This is the famous one, quote unquote, right? This is the one that hosts the US Opens. This is the more difficult side of things. It's the course that is going to play host. It's the course that we have ShotLink on. So it's the one that is easier to start diving into right off of the bat. And what the critics will say about Torrey Pines is that it asks you the same question over and over and over again. And that's not particularly wrong. It's going to ask you to hit driver off the tee, a long iron into the greens, mostly long, high draws into greens, something like that, right? Just a lot of mid to long irons. And if you miss the fairway, you're going to play out of thick rough. There is going to be thick rough around the greens. You know, all the things that the architecture guys hate is what Torrey Pines is, but doesn't matter if they hate it or not. Somebody's going to win the golf tournament. Somebody's going to finish second, somebody, et cetera, et cetera. So we still are going to attack this like we do every single week. And you'll notice that the model, if you haven't seen this before, it's just a correlation model between all the stats that are available on the PGA Tour and success at each golf course. And it loves good drivers. And that makes sense, right? Long and accurate, if you can find it. If you can't find long and accurate, long might do the trick. And here's some visuals of Torrey on the south side. And what you'll notice is a lot of this, just, bunkering out at around 300 yards. You are going to notice that fairways are very narrow, 25 yards there on number one. As I just scroll through the south side of things, you're going to continue to see a similar story. You're going to see 25, 26 yard wide fairways that have gentle dog legs with bunkering on either both sides of the dog leg or the outside edge. You're also going to have that thick 4-inch rough to start the week, where if you hit it into the rough, it is basically it's a pretty significant penalty. Actually, do I have it here? Do I have so another golf course so I love looking at this. What is the penalty for missing the fairway versus the penalty for hitting a long drive? And these are, well, they're not that close, but there are some that are relatively close. But every single par 4 and par 5 prefers accuracy. Now, what does that mean? That means that the penalty for missing the fairway is bigger than the reward you get for hitting a drive over the average. Okay. So on number one, the penalty for missing the fairway is basically a half a shot on number 1, 2, 5 and 14 and 17. If you miss the fairway, you are giving up a half a shot to the field. If you hit a drive in the fairway, or if you hit a drive a longer than average, you are gaining 0.3 of a stroke, 0.2 of a stroke, 0.2 of a stroke, right? So the reward that you get for hitting a long drive is not as big as playing out of the fairway. So that's how that reads. So if you can do both, you're obviously in really good shape. You'll see that basically, I mean, I understand the architecture critics, right? All of these holes look very similar. I am obviously partial to Torrey Pines. I love it here. It's obviously beautiful. It's great. I've played both of these courses a lot, but I get it. I get it. It's not the most creative golf course we've ever seen. The north side does play a little bit more difficult these days, but has historically played easier. They do have two different types of green surfaces. So it's straight Poa annua on the south side. They redid the north side a couple of years ago, and it will officially say bent grass. However, I've got pictures of the north course, and I'll see if I can find them in my camera roll, where you can already see the Poa annua creeping back into these greens. It's a very difficult grass to get rid of, and you can already start to see it kind of coming back in and budding a little bit. So if you want to get into the real nitty gritty of what these greens are, the north side is probably like 70% bent. And I think there is a Poa annua growing back into it. I'll see if I can find that picture and tweet it out. But it'll be listed as bent, and Poa annua will be listed on the south side, which will make putting from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet a little bit more difficult this week than in most weeks. Okay. Let's continue on here. We're going to go to the cheat sheet. Now, there were a couple of Sunday night WDs or weekend WDs. Xander Schauffele withdrew from this field. Colin Morikawa withdrew from this field. Salaries were released, and Akshay Bhatia was removed from this field or withdrew from this field. I obviously don't know why. My hunch is that, I don't even know if I should continue to throw this out there. I think that the Genesis is going to be played at Torrey Pines. I have a couple people who I trust that are telling me that. I could be wrong. I'm like 80% on that. But I think that the WDs might also be because of that. We'll see. I don't know. We'll find out. The top of the board did not have Akshay in it. Akshay was in the $8,000 range. So the top of the board is relatively unchanged here, or it is unchanged. Ludwig Oberg at $10,800, Hideki Matsuyama at $10,700, Tony Finau at $10,200, and Sung J M at $10,000. The other thing that I should probably note about this event is there's not a lot of guys with really, really good course. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Guys with really, really consistent course history. Even some of the best players, and I can open this up a little bit farther in terms of years and go back, 10 years or so. Even the guys who have good results, you will certainly see missed cuts mixed in there. You're going to see a little bit of, Jason Day, who has won this event multiple times, who has routinely finished inside the top 10, has 4 missed cuts in his last 9 trips, right? It is not like, I hate to use Augusta National as just the easy layup on course history, but even the best players miss cuts here. There tends to be a couple of them every single year. It is one of the least consistent course histories. Now, you have guys who have great events, but they will mix in missed cuts as well. Max Homa is another one. Bo Hostler, same thing. It's hard to find somebody with a ton of really good history. So when we get to them, I'll be sure to point them out. So let's start at the top here. If you were designing a golf course for Ludwig Oberg, it might look a lot like the South Course at Torrey Pines. He is long and straight off the tee, which is why he picked up 2 strokes off the tee here last year. And remember, that's just in 3 measured rounds. He picked up 4.7 strokes on approach here. He putted well. We don't have the breakdown from what he did in round 1 at the North Course, but he gained a stroke and a half there. He is deservedly the favorite coming into this event. The thing about him, and I'll continue to say this, his game translates everywhere. He finished T5 at the Century, which should not even really be that good of a golf course for him. I think this is a better golf course for him. I think Ludwig Oberg is a great option. It makes all the sense in the world about him coming out here and playing well. Hideki Matsuyama, Tony Finau, and Sung J M are the others. I'll start with Finau because he is one of the few guys that has a really strong course history here. So if you look at his results at this event, 1 missed cut in 10 or 11 trips. 4 out of his last 5 have been top 10s. everything except that miscut in 2022 has been inside the top 25. He has really been stout around this place. I am a little bit concerned about what I've seen from him as of late. He's coming back from that off-season knee procedure. I thought he looked okay at the Century, where he was really just buoyed by a phenomenal round one putting performance. And then he misses the cut at the American Express, which was kind of ugly. And then when he got to the stadium course at PGA West, he lost 3 strokes putting. It's just like, I don't love what's happening here. He looks a little bit rusty to me. Maybe this is the place that gets him right, but I think there are better options in Ludwig. If you look at Hideki's results, Hideki, missed a couple of cuts early in his career at this event, but has been very, very good otherwise. We saw what he is capable of doing coming off the victory at the Century, even the Sony Open, which was, he left a lot of shots on the table, left a lot of strokes out there. He still finished T16 in that field. So I just don't think there's a reason to be forcing Tony Finau into lineups or kind of overpaying for him when you've got Ludwig and Hideki sandwiched around him here. And then Sungjae, I'm interested to see what people do with the missed cut from Sungjae. He was miserable in the opening round last week. He was one of the more popular golfers for the American Express. It was the first time he hasn't finished inside the top 18 or top 20 at that event. Well, this is another good place for him. Missed the cut in 2024, but right on the number. I'm not worried about that. 2 years before that, it was a top 6 in each one of those. 3 made cuts prior. I would prefer to probably roll like Ludwig out in a vacuum if I'm not considering anything else. And then if I'm starting to look at ownership and seeing the way it's trending, which we'll know a lot more on Tuesday, the Tuesday live chat. I should have mentioned this at the top. I'm so sorry. This event starts on Wednesday. And finishes on Saturday. So all the things that need to be done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday now need to be done on Monday and Tuesday. So that the live chat, the Rick Run Good live chat, is Tuesday. Right now it is at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It is probably going to stay there, but I had to move it a little bit on time. Again, everything that needs to be done in 3 days now needs to be done in 2. So, all that being said, I think it's Ludwig. I think it's Sungjae. We'll know more during the Tuesday live chat about what those ownerships are expected to come in at. The 9K range. Just 6 golfers here. Keegan Bradley, Max Grazerman, Will Zalatoris, Jason Day, Sahith, and Shane Lowry. If you have followed anything on this channel, you know that I'm quite bullish on Max Grazerman, and that continues here. Grazerman was T7 at the American Express. There's a lot of good stuff to like about him. The 1.6 strokes that he lost off the tee at the stadium course on Saturday, I believe a large chunk of that was when he hit it into the water off the tee late. I can't remember what hole it was, but he hit one in the water, and then I don't think he carried anything. I'm pretty sure he had to re-tee it. So it was brutal for his results, still a T7, and then also for his metrics. But remember, he is one of the best drivers on the PGA Tour. That's only the second time that he's lost strokes off the tee since the Canadian Open, and the 2 losses pale in comparison to how big the gains are. He's also very much one of the best putters that we have on the PGA Tour. The other thing that gets me excited, picked up 7 strokes on approach in 2 rounds, 2 measured rounds last week. Picked up 2.8 strokes on approach at the Zozo. So now we've got his last 3 measured events. He is a big winner on approach, and that's like 6 rounds. Oh no, I guess it's more than that because he was even at the Century. And then we also have the WWT Championship, which he finished 4th, but we don't have the strokes gained breakdown from because there's no shot link there. So there's a really good chance that one of the best drivers on the PGA Tour, one of the best putters on the PGA Tour, is hitting his second shots really well. He is long off the tee. He's going to be able to move it from the rough. He missed the cut here last year in his maiden voyage, but this is a completely different guy than what we saw last year. So Grazerman for me, probably the most exciting in this 9K range. I'll be interested to see what people do with Jason Day. He's coming off the 3rd place finish, and he has dominated in his career at Torrey Pines. I think that he'll be fairly popular. Might get some one and done selections, all that fun stuff. Will Zalatoris has me the most curious. Will Zalatoris is probably the X factor in this range. I've said I want it to be a little bit late. I want to see more from Will to start 2025. I am getting a couple of good things here. The Century was a positive week from tee to green where he finished T26. The American Express, again, remember, only 2 measured rounds, a very positive tee to green week. He lost strokes putting. That's okay. Will Zalatoris has routinely played very well at Torrey Pines. Remember the runner-up finish to Luke List in 2022. He finished T13 here last year. He had a T7 the year prior to the playoff loss. He is the prototypical kind of driver long iron player. And I know that his game is a little bit different this time around, but I don't, because of the back injury, he's had to make some adjustments, but I don't think it is anything to be super concerned about. He missed the cut at the US Open here. That's what I wanted to check. By the way, if you go to RickRunGood, if you open up courses, you'll get his US Open result as well as his Farmers Insurance Open result. So 3 missed cuts in 6 trips to Torrey across a couple of events, T7 runner-up and T13 in the other. So he's probably the X factor to me, meaning if he won, no surprise. If he missed the cut, no surprise. The 8K range here, and this is where Akshay was. I believe he was $8,500 or $8,600. Don't quote me on that, but he was here in the 8K range. As I open up the power rankings here, you're going to see last 36 rounds. We already talked about Grazerman. He's the best player in this field over the last 36. Harry Hall is second. He is tied with Luke Clanton. They've both gained 1.45 strokes per round over the last 36. They are both in this range. So I think we should probably take a little bit of a deeper look at both of these guys. So we've got Hall, we've got Clanton. Harry Hall, again, if you've been watching, you have not missed out on this great run from Harry. Gave a little bit back on Saturday. That was his round at, I want to say it was at the stadium. No, I guess it wasn't because we don't have the measure stuff. He did not play as well at one of the easier golf courses, and that kind of buried his chances. But a T21 last week now continues the stretch of top 25s. A much better tee to green player recently, and he's one of the best putters that we have. He has really struggled here. So he's played here 3 times. He has missed the cut all 3 times. I, again, believe he's a better player now, but it does relieve some concern. Speaking of concern, I want to know what people are going to do with Luke Clanton. Misses the cut at the Sony Open, and now what? The shiny new object, who everybody loves, has now let them down. I'm ready to go back. Great driver, continues to gain strokes off the tee. Great second shot player, despite losing strokes on approach at the Sony Open. He's very bad around the greens, but let's be real. It's just kind of thick rough around the greens at Torrey Pines. Yeah, if you hit it into the bunkers, maybe it's a little bit more difficult, but I don't think this is a particularly crazy place to have to get up and down from. And he putts well enough. And I just think people are going to kind of move on. There's this concept where, okay, well, he finally burned us. Let's move on. It's like, well, he's played 9 great events out of the 10 that we have measured on him. I think it's okay to forgive on that one. Beau Hossler, I mentioned him earlier when I talked about his history. So his last 5 years here are T6, 3 missed cuts, and a T9. Then you look at what he's been up to in recent weeks. T12 at the American Express, that was very, very quiet. I don't even think I saw a shot from him during the week, but put up some good numbers, both driving, around the green. I mean, just good numbers at the 2 rounds at the stadium course. He hasn't missed the cut since the first event of the fall. That was the Pro Core. He has a runner-up finish. He's played a lot better and kicks off his 2025 with a T12. I think this is a good buy spot for Beau Hossler. And then here's Max Homa. So I've wanted to be early on Max, and I believe we are about to be investing here. The signs were good for Max starting in the fall. We got much better play. He has now picked up at least 4 strokes from tee to green in 3 out of his last 4 measured events. The game is coming back, and this is a place that he loves. Right? Winner here in 2023, 13th last year, T9 and T18, all within the last 5 years. So his last 5 years are 4 top 18 finishes with a win and a missed cut. And I believe that we are getting a lot of really good signs. I don't think we're going to get, so let's see here. He is 80, what is he this week? 8,600. He was 7,100 at the Century. He was 82 at the Zozo. A lot of 7K stuff at the end of last year, but to start last year, routinely 85, 9,000, 97. Yeah, okay. I think we're about to get just a lot of $9,000 plus max Homa. And I think this is a really good chance to get him. I think there's a lot of value here. I have already favorited him for this week. So yes, he will be run out by me. There's clearly a significant drop off in the 7K range, but I do think that there are a couple of diamonds in the rough, couple of gems that get me pretty excited here. So if we look at the trends tool, this is the breakout candidates chart. If you've never seen this before, it just tries to look at golfers who are playing above their baseline from tee to green and are likely to get back to whatever their own putting baseline is, and then kind of ranks them accordingly. So you want to be in the upper left-hand quadrant here. Andrew Putnam, significantly in the upper left hand. So is Joseph Bramlett, who honestly, Bramlett is probably a pretty good play here, but Putnam I think is better. He is $7,000 even. There's just something about this stat profile that screams, I don't know what it screams. It screams that there's still plenty of juice to squeeze out of this. Andrew Putnam, talented putter. That's why he's named that. Has been putting together a really strong stretch of tee to green play dating back to basically the Scottish Open. You know, he's only really lost once, and that was at the American Express, and that was his first round at the Stadium course, lost less than a stroke from tee to green. So I think that there is a potential marriage of his recent tee to green play with the kind of the overall putting prowess that he has. And the model loves it too. You know, there's really no opinion in the model. The model is like, hey, what do your numbers say compared to everybody else? And what do they say about yourself? And if you kind of have a little bit of averaging out of that, like where would you fall? And then that's kind of what I think that's what the eye test shows for Putnam. And I think that's what the model shows as well. Now, so I've got these like little pets, right? These little pets for the year. Frankie Sappin, who I've been speaking about forever, finished T12 again last week. He is like awesome. Okay. He's awesome. He picked up 4.5 strokes from tee to green at the Stadium course in 2 rounds, picked up 2.7 on approach. Like, I'm playing Frankie in some capacity every week until something changes. The other guy that I'm very, very excited about is Nicholas Norgard. You might see him listed as Nicholas Norgard Moeller. He is one of the, I talked about him a lot in my top 50 preview before the year started. He is one of the guys who came over from he got his card from the DP World Tour. He just played in Dubai last week. You know, that field with Terrell Hatton and Rory McIlroy and John Rahm and all those guys. Yeah, he finished 4th in that field. This guy's muscles have muscles. He is jacked. He will have zero problem extracting himself from the thick rough at Torrey Pines. For being a big, strong dude, he putts the lights out. And yes, RickRunGood.com has all the strokes gained metrics from the DP World Tour. I've got to deal with them. He won the British Masters, another big event. That was in September. He's been playing, finished T7 at Wentworth, BMW PGA Championship. The dude is legit. And now we are going to get a true PGA Tour kind of debut. I know he's played the Scottish Open before. Technically, that's a PGA Tour event, but this is the proper start. I am worried. So it's always tough for these guys to first come over, especially on a short week. So he's coming from Dubai on a short week, which I hate, obviously. You know, it's just going to be the Monday prep, the Tuesday prep, and he's going to start the week. But I'm too excited to stay away. So he's here at $7,600. I'm hoping that now that he's here in the States, we are going to get a decent run of him over the next couple of months. And I am just very, very excited about those opportunities. Steven Yeager, Austin Eckroat would certainly fit into the category of these known entities that I trust a little bit. You know, Yeager's been playing great golf with a decent finish at the Century, the T3 at the Sony. He played well at the Black Desert. Like, his game's been in good shape since the fall, and he finished T3 here last year. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Austin Eckroat, a legitimate winning candidate. Yes, he missed the cut at the Sony, but again, had a great fall, had a great start at the Century with the T15. Those guys are just kind of more known entities that I'm interested in. So I've got them clicked as well. They get me all hot and bothered. Is there anybody else here that I think we'll run a model at the end? It'll probably find a lot of these 7K guys, but let's roll on here. I want to start with 3 guys that have good course history that I want to do a deeper dive on. So we've got Joseph Bramlett, who I mentioned earlier. He is very much in that optimal quadrant of breakout candidates. The results around Torrey Pines have been great. He missed the cut in 2011. What was he, like 16 years old? Because he didn't play again until 2020, and then hasn't missed a cut since. 3 of those are top 25 finishes in the last 5 years. He is one of the longest hitters on the PGA Tour, so it makes sense. He has not been good lately. I don't think he's been bad. He just hasn't been good. So since the start of the PGA Tour fall season, he's made most cuts, but his best finishes at T21, a lot of finishes between 21 and 35. He did play on the Korn Ferry. That's not last week. That was 2 weeks. The Korn Ferry is now on the opposite schedule. They start on Sunday and finish on Wednesday. So there's actually a Korn Ferry event going on right now. The Bahamas event last week, he did miss the cut. So he should have been back in the States a while ago. So I think we're good there. If you're comfortable with a little bit of risk, I think it's okay. I mean, the dude can't putt. There's just no doubt about it. He cannot putt, but he's gained strokes putting in 4 of his last 5 trips here. So maybe there's something about these greens. Maybe the Poana actually helps the bad putters. But I think if you are willing to roll and take on a little bit of risk, my fellow Travis Matthew guy in Joseph Bramlett, I think, is an acceptable risk to take. The other guys, sorry. Luke List, who shows up at Torrey Pines and puts together something special. Hasn't missed the cut here since 2017. He won here in 2022. We already referenced that. He had a T10 in 2021. Yeah, it's like a bunch of really good finishes. Another guy who cannot putt, who finds a way to use, for lack of a better term, his strengths to get out of Torrey. I actually think I like Bramlett better. Bramlett's been playing better than Luke List. Luke's been a shell of himself. I mean, the approach numbers are bad. He's lost strokes on approach in 8 straight. That's like 13 of his last 14. When he's playing his best, he's a ball striking fiend. Fiend? Is that the word? Who just can't putt. Well, that's not what we're getting right now. So that worries me. And then Jake Knapp. T3 here last year. It was during that run where things were going really, really well. Yeah, I don't think I can be too excited about this. His last, it's so funny. He wins the Grant Thornton, the co-ed event. But I mean, look at these results. -7.5, -4, -2.7, -1.3, -1.7, all on approach. The driver, which is like awesome, not good. The putter, always bad. Yeah. All right. So of those guys, I believe it or not, I think it's just Luke List, the guys that have the good history, but have some question marks. Or sorry, I think it's just Joseph Bramlett. Sorry, I said the wrong name there. Outside of that, I'm going to take this range. I'm going to sort it by strokes gained total, and I kind of want to look at longer hitters here. How much data do we have on Thomas Rosenmuller? How much data do we have on Quade Cummins? And I'll pull up Chris Ventura. I played Chris Ventura a bit last. Chris Ventura was also on the good side of that trends tool, by the way. Made an ace last week. Did not win me my top 40, but played well in the first 3 rounds. Lost a little bit. Yeah, okay, it's decent. I'd go back to Chris Ventura. Quade Cummins missed the cut at the Sony to start his year. Has not been good. The American Express, he finished T34. We don't have the full strokes game breakdown, but what we do have was losses on approach and tee to green. That's a little bit scary. Thomas Rosenmuller. Wow. Interesting. Okay, so here's Rosenmuller's deal. He won on the Corn Ferry in July, then had a great run in their playoffs, a runner-up and a fifth to end their season. He went to Saudi Arabia and played that Asian event. He missed the cut there and ejected in the second round. He lost 7.5 strokes to the field in the second round. His play at the Sony was fine, but uninspiring. His play at the American Express was pretty bad. So I don't think we're going to do that, but interesting. Boy, what else do we have here? This is not pretty. The guys who have good strokes gained are not good fits. They don't really hit it well enough off the tee. Let's try sort by accuracy and then find guys that are Paul Peterson. Missed the cut at the American Express, but had that run at the Sony. I'll pull up Paul real quick, and then we'll try to find maybe one more here. God, Zach Johnson. No, I don't. I couldn't even. Brian Campbell. Okay. He shows up in a lot of models. I think it's because of a sample size issue. So here's Paul Peterson. T25 at the RSM, T10 at the Sony, missed cut at the American Express. Tough. Got beat up by the stadium course in round one. Played better on Saturday. Picked up 3 strokes to the field on Saturday, but did not make the cut. I would not mind Paul Peterson. Its range is really bad. Brian Campbell. Why does he? Yeah, this is why he keeps popping up everywhere. Great finish to his Corn Ferry Tour season. He withdrew from the Sony. Why? I think he was one of the guys, and don't quote me on this, where he did not finish his second round. He was going to miss the cut, and he withdrew because they did not finish round number 2 on Friday night at the Sony, I believe is what happened there. Because he picked up 2 strokes to the field in round 1, then withdrew. His American Express, he did make the cut. Okay, I'm going to favorite Brian Campbell as well. I think that's okay. He's played here once. It was 8 years ago. How old is he? So he played here when he was 23. T41. Okay. All right. Brian Campbell might not be bad. From Bluffton, South Carolina. I know somebody from Bluffton, South Carolina. All right. Let's run a model and see what that says. Now, I want to be pretty smart about this. We are going to do this time of year, I probably should be doing like last 48 or last 50 or something. Let's do last 50 rounds. We are going to do strokes gained off the tee for 10. But what I'm also going to do is I'm actually going to do this. I'll put 15 on accuracy and 5 on distance. So 30 on off the tee, but I'm going to do it that way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do approach shots from like 150 and out. I'll put 10, 10, 10, 150, 175. Okay. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do bogey avoidance for 15. Then I'm going to do strokes gained putting on Poana for 15. And then the last 10 is going to go on, I could do long courses or I could do hard courses. Or I could do course history. Let's do course history. We always do course history, right? Let's do long courses. All right, number 1. My number 1 golfer is Ludwig Åberg. So look at this. This is kind of interesting. Normally we see the number 1 golfer be like a score of 92, 93, 88, 89. Only an 80 for Ludwig, which says to me that there is not someone who is the clear best player based on the numbers that I put in. Ludwig's an 80. Hideki's a 79.6. It's out of 100. 100 would be like a perfect score. 50 would be the tour average or the field average. So it's Ludwig, Hideki, Daniel Berger, Doug Ghim. Ghim gets a boost from off the tee play, bogey avoidance, accuracy, putting on Poana. Yeah, some of the longer shots. Sung J M is 5. Kevin Roy is 6th. Doesn't this tell you that this event is pretty chaotic? Doesn't make a lot of bogeys, hits it far, Wow. Aaron Rye, 7. I could see he was in contention here one year, wasn't he? Or at least around contention. Aaron Rye, maybe that was the US Open. I remember being like Rye and Rahm at some point. I was walking with them. I think Rye was a group ahead. Keegan is 8. No surprise there. Harris English, 9. Bogey avoidance. Yeah. Shane Lowry's 10. Grazerman is 11, by the way. This is fun. All right, I'm going to save this one because this does not look like a lot of the models that we get. I want to continue to iterate off of this. Farmers Monday. Okay, that'll do it. We are going to cram everything into the next 2 days. It's going to be splendid. We're going to get it all done. Don't forget, go and sign up on Splash. It would make all of our lives better. It might. I don't know. But it would be very much appreciated. You're going to play anyway, so let's just do it sooner rather than later. The links for everything that you need are in the description. I will talk to you guys on Tuesday at the live chat. Good luck this week.